The program will start in 1 minute. The program will start in 1 minute. May we request everyone to take their designated seats and tables as we shall begin the program. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the Philippine National Anthem. Remain standing for the ecumenical prayer. Blessings be upon all. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom. Peace be upon us all. O God, you are the source of life and peace. Praised be your name forever. We know it is you who turns our minds to thoughts of progress and peace. Hear our prayer in this time of uncertainty and great challenges. Your power changes hearts. Muslims, Christians, Jews, and all other faiths remember and profoundly affirm that they are followers of the one God and universal charity, kindness, understanding, respect for freedom, democracy, justice that we believe in. Children of Abraham, brothers and sisters, enemies begin to speak to one another. Those who were estranged join hands in friendship. Nations seek the way of progress and peace together. It is our universal prayer. As we honor a statesman and launch a Center for Freedom and Democracy, strengthen our resolve to give witness to these truths by the way we live. Give to us understanding that puts an end to strife mercy that quenches hatred, and forgiveness that overcomes vengeance. Empower all people to live in your law of love. Guide us by your wisdom, correct us with your justice, comfort us with your mercy, protect us with your power. Enlighten our understanding, strengthen our will, purify our hearts, and make us holy. Help us to conquer anger with gentleness, greed by generosity, apathy by fervor. Help us to forget ourselves and reach out towards others. Amen. Please be seated. To give us the welcome remarks, may I call on the President of the Asian Institute of Journalism and Communication, Sir Ramon Tuazon.
Thank you, Pierre. AIJC Chairman, Mr. Mel V. Velarde, the President Emeritus of AIJC, Dr. Florangel Rosario Bray, the family of the late statesman and patriot Raul S. Manglapus, distinguished diplomats, friends, ladies and gentlemen. Why is the Asian Institute of Journalism and Communication involved in the launch of a leadership center? Or what is the role of communication, the discipline AIJC brings into this forum in our country's quest for political maturity? The launch of the Raul S. Manglapus Center for Freedom and Democracy comes at the most auspicious time as our country prepares for another political exercise. We are reminded of the perpetual challenge of defining a desired vision for our nation, a desired vision for our children. While many political parties claim to have different platforms for their campaigns, it appears that they lack a shared vision that everybody, regardless of political affiliation, should aim to fulfill. Communication must facilitate a national conversation in crafting a shared vision. The process should be engaging, participatory, and inclusive, highlighting the participation of the voiceless in our society. Communication must help define, sharpen, concretize values that need to be embedded in our shared vision for our future. If there are citizens who have chosen to be apathetic or disengaged, except perhaps the active trolls, perhaps because our leaders have failed to concretize values such as integrity, inclusiveness, diversity, and what they need in our daily lives. Communication provides the platform for dialogue with the youth, making up more than half of our population. Digital platforms have emerged as the media of choice. The advantages of these platforms are captured in a single word popular among us millennials: unli. Unlimited reach, unlimited channels, unlimited content. Unfortunately, alongside these benefits are threats coming from hatred and disinformation. Only ways of spreading hate speech, fake news, inaccurate memes, posts, comments, and even trolls. Communication must tell stories that inspire and mobilize young people to emerge as new leaders. We need to mobilize and mold young people to become tomorrow's and today's leaders. Young leaders who have clear and common vision. AIJC commits to work with the Centrist for Social Democratic Union, or CSDU, as we firmly believe that our partnership will promote the values we share and the principles that we have espoused the past 38 years. Thus, we invite our friends who are with us today to work with us in putting together the building blocks of the Raul S. Manglapus Center for Leadership and Democracy, named after a world-class orator, a consummate communicator. Good afternoon to all of us. Maraming salamat. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas.
Thank you very much, President Ramon Tuazon of the AIJC. On behalf of the Centrist Social Democratic Union, let us hear the welcome remarks of the President, Mr. Francis Xavier Manglapus.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. President Emeritus Dr. Braid, the Chairman Mayor Velarde, President from AIJC, Mr. Ramon Tuazon. President Ramos was supposed to be with us here today, but unfortunately he has a cold, so he's been advised to take the day off. So I am at liberty now to plagiarize some of what he does. And what he always does, as many of you have experienced, is he always speaks about unity, which is really what is sorely lacking in our country today. And he always starts by asking everyone to look to your left, look to your right, say hello, give your name, and if you really feel inspired, give him a little kiss. That's FDR. Anyway, I would really like to thank the Now Corporation and AIJC for helping conceptualize this center. This is actually a product of 1 year of discussions and many meetings. And I was really excited about it, aside from the fact that we're trying to reach a new audience, if you will, the millennials, about the type of platform that we will be using with the help of the Now Corporation. But Mel asked me today to just talk a little bit of what I am probably an expert on. I see this room full of experts, and I'm not an expert in political science or the economy or education. But I think I'm an expert on my dad. So I think that's what I will do today. So let me just briefly, for many young people that are here today, so of course for the seniors like me, you already know this, but bear with me. I'd just like to give a very brief description of the history of my father. He was born 100 years ago. In fact, his father was actually an assemblyman representing the northern district of the Philippines at that time. And he was appointed, not elected, because the whole northern district of the Philippines in 1920 was considered non-Christian. Therefore, there in the northern part, like some parts of Mindanao, they were appointed by the Americans. So my grandfather was actually an assemblyman, but only for 1 year, because the Americans, since he was appointed, felt that he would do their bidding, and they actually asked him to sponsor a law at that time in 1920 to legalize separation that would lead to divorce. This was as early as 1920. Of course, he didn't do that, probably from objections from my grandmother, and so he was not reappointed. So that was the time, around the time when my father was born. He then went to school at Ateneo. He was a summa cum laude right before the war. And then right before the war was when he gave that famous speech, land of bondage, land of the free. Where I think it's a staple in a lot of speech classes in the universities right now, in the high schools. That was right before the war in 1939. Next slide. During the war, he was he was in Fort Santiago. He was imprisoned. He had joined the press office of Malacanang at the time under General Romulo. And when the war broke out, he was doing radio broadcasts, and because of that, he was imprisoned. He was captured by the Japanese and imprisoned in Fort Santiago. There's even a plaque there in Fort Santiago that mentioned that he was there. There's another name there, but that's another controversy that I don't want to touch into. If you notice a few names down his name, shouldn't be there, but that's another story. Okay, next slide, please. Right after the war, he decided to join politics while teaching at the Ateneo. And they started the Citizens Party. Again, he was never comfortable joining the established political parties at the time, already in the 40s, which were the Liberals and Nationalistas. He wanted to build a political party, be part of a group that would have a political party really made of the citizens of the country and just not of the political bosses. Their leader at the time that they chose was Lorenzo Tañada, who in this picture is at the center. And this is a group of very young, idealistic businessmen, educators at the time in the late 40s, and they formed what they called the Citizens Party. And there, some of the photos there, I think there's a Del Rosario even there, there's a Isaac Rodrigo and my father. They formed the Citizens Party at the time. After they had formed that, another political figure started coming into the horizon, Ramon Magsaysay. And they eventually decided to support the candidacy of Ramon Magsaysay. And he was actually telling me a story of how he finally formalized his association with Magsaysay. Magsaysay went to his house when he was trying to run for president, and he asked my father to be the head of the Magsaysay for President movement. Again, it was a movement of senators, not part of the Nationalista Party at the time. And my father said, yeah, sure. In fact, I had already wrote a song for your campaign because we've already been looking up to you. And the song was called Magsaysay is My Guy. But at that time, they wanted to release a record, it had to have a flip side. So my dad quickly had to compose a flip side to this march, Magsaysay is My Guy march. That's when he composed the Magsaysay Mambo, which actually became more popular and which was, communication-wise, was attributed to Magsaysay as being very popular, particularly in the rural areas. Now, after Magsaysay passed away, during the Magsaysay administration in Iran, he became the Undersecretary of Foreign Affairs. And his first task was to be the Secretary General of SEATO, the Southeast Asian Treaty Organization, which was the first attempt after the war to form a security umbrella among the ASEAN nations. And he was the Secretary General of that movement in 1954, I think, which, because of the successful holding of that event, he was actually awarded the most outstanding young man in government. He was only 35 at the time. When Magsaysay passed away, and Vice President Garcia, who was the concurrent Vice President, became President, my father became Foreign Secretary at the age of 37, the youngest then. However, he did not last because he felt that maybe it was time again to go back to their original Citizens Party concept. So he resigned and ran for senator, and they set up a political party with Senator Manahan called the PPP. And people would make fun of it because it was a third party and they had no chance. They used to call it the Patay Party. But that's what happened in 1957. He ran the Senate. Of course, he lost. He ran again in 1959. They called it then the Grand Alliance. Again, another attempt to fight the Liberals and the Nationalistas, who had a political hold on the culture of the country. Again, they lost. In 1961, they decided to form an alliance with Vice President Macapagal, who was then running for president. So they formed the United Opposition. And all the ranking members of the PPP Grand Alliance decided to form the Grand Opposition with the Liberal Party on one condition, that the Liberal Party adopt the political platform of the PPP Grand Alliance, which they gladly did. And embedded in that platform were very important social concepts, such as land reform, such as decentralization. It was already part of the political platform of 1961 that catapulted Macapagal for president. The vice president was a member of the Grand Alliance, Pelaez. The number 1 senator, Manglapus, Grand Alliance member. The number 2 senator, Manahan, Grand Alliance member. And the number 4, Rodrigo, another Grand Alliance member. So it is very clear they were on the path to maybe doing some social change at the early years of the Macapagal administration, which is when the Macapagal administration decided to push for land reform. The obvious sponsor for the bill in the Senate was my father, and that is when the 1963 Land Reform Code was passed. It was part of a political platform of the Liberal Party then. However, the next step, which was decentralization, was when they had some problems. The Macapagal administration was not comfortable with decentralization. Why? They were already in power. Why are they going to give it up and give it to the local governments? So that caused a break among the Macapagal Liberals and the Grand Alliance. Therefore, in 1965, they decided again to form the third force. And he decided to run for president in 1965 because the Liberals did not agree on the platform. Next slide. Of course, again, fighting against the nationalists and the Liberals, the traditional power brokers, what you now call what do you call them now? The dynasties, they get clobbered. After that, the reformists decided to really come together and say, you know, we cannot beat the system. We have to try to change it. So they formed the Christian Social Movement. These were all the reformists then that were kind of giving up on the stranglehold of the traditional political parties, and they wanted to provide a clear democratic alternative in nation building. The first move was to push for a constitutional convention, which happened in 1970. And they demanded from Congress then that these elections for the convention would be truly non-partisan. In other words, all candidates would be protected. No nationalista, no liberals, everybody would be protected. That is why in the 1970 convention we had quite a substantial number of independents that won. My father ran, he won as the number 1 candidate from the first district of Rizal at the time. Nene Pimentel, Joe Concepcion, Dick Gordon, among other. Paolo de Lima were some of the outstanding members of the Constitutional Convention that came in as a result of breaking down the monopoly of the new liberals and the nationalistas. After that, martial law came. So there were 3 senators that were immediately ordered to be arrested. Senator Aquino, Senator Jokno, and my father. Luckily, he was on his way for a speaking engagement in the United States. Therefore, he escaped the clutches of the dictatorship at that time. So when we reached the United States, he formed a movement against the dictatorship. Some of you I see are here with us, and you remember these times. He formed a movement, that's him there with Ninoy Aquino at the stage when Ninoy joined in 1980. Upon the restoration of democracy, he comes back to Manila. He was appointed Secretary of Foreign Affairs under Cory Aquino, and immediately, because of his passion of democracy, set up this new conference of newly restored democracies. It was made up of countries from all around the world that has returned to democracy from dictatorship. At that time, there were about 15. This was before the fall of the Iron Curtain. Subsequent conferences that were held included all the countries in the Iron Curtain, and they now hold this conference every 3 years, and it's ballooned to about 60 political parties. This concept was initiated in Manila by none other than Raul Manglapus in 1989. His passion for democracy was really there. After that, you know the story. President Ramos does a merger with his political party and my father's Christian Democratic movement. He lowers his political profile because, and I think Chairman May will talk about this later on, the Ramos Almonte era starts, continuing the reformist battle that was started decades ago by my dad. Okay, with that very brief introduction, I would just like to explain centrist social democratic union. Why centrist social democratic union? Simple. Center. All of you know political theory. Center. We don't believe in the government solving all of our problems, which is what the left advocates sometimes, and doing it while taking care of taking away our liberties. We do not also support the extreme right, where it's all the law of the jungle, the free market taking care of everything. We believe in the center. We believe in the free market, but at the same time, we believe in social responsibility, as much free market as possible, as much government as necessary to ensure competition, all for the good of the people. That is why we call ourselves centrists on the political side. On the moral side, we used to be called Christian, but now we consider ourselves centrists because we embrace all faiths. There is, many of you know about the golden rule. There are sayings in every religion, strong moral positions in every religion, not just Christianity, Islam, Confucianism, individual spiritualities. And there's enough common bond among them to form a political idea that we can all adopt. That's why we call ourselves centrist. Social. Why social? We believe that everything else must have a social, every movement must have a social component. Economy must have a social component. Political movements must have a social component. Everything that is done must be good for society as a whole. That's why centrist social. Democratic. Why? Simple. We believe that democratic reforms are possible within a democratic environment. We do not need, I know, some of you might disagree, we don't need a red gov. We can do it within a democratic government if we have an enlightened electorate and an enlightened citizenry. That's right. Christian, social, democratic, union. Why union? We want to unite people. Fishermen, businessmen, farmers, educators. If we have an idea that is good, it is good enough to unite everybody. That's what we call ourselves a union. What President Ramos will always say, we're all part of a big boat. Everybody must be part of that boat. So it's Centrist Social Democratic Union, CSDU. We're not a political party. That is something that we must stress. Political parties now, we have an election, they join, after election, they're gone. So what we intend to do is be here for the long term. Elections, no elections, we're going to be here to agitate for reforms. Okay, to end, I would just like to look at this quote. We are here now, some of us are senior citizens, there are a lot of youth among us. It's time to pass the baton. We were maybe inspired, some of you by my dad, but my dad was also inspired from the previous generations. I'd like to read this. They aim to unite our country into a compact, vigorous, and organized body politic, where citizens recognize and freely accept the obligation in coming to one another's aid in every necessity, uniting with each other to repel violence and injustice from whatever quarter, dedicating themselves to the constant improvement of agriculture, trade, industry, as well as our inherited culture, and seeking always by study and by concentrated action to reform what is defective and to enhance what is of value in our society. This is where my father got his inspiration. That was written by Jose Rizal at the inauguration of La Liga Filipina. It was relevant then, it was relevant in my dad's time, it's relevant now, and I think it will be relevant in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Francis Xavier Manglapus. Good afternoon. I'm Pierre Alejo, your host. At this point, let me greet one and all in several languages, inspired by the statesman and linguist, the former Senator and Foreign Affairs Secretary Raul S. Manglapus, beginning with Latin. Dominarum et judicias et bona post meridiem. Mesdames et messieurs, bon après-midi, bonjour. Señoras y señores, buenas tardes. Signore y signori, buon pomeriggio. Sawadee ka, sepabru ilea sepabru baidi. Dami iskopada dobri eden. Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, guten Tag. Mga kababayan, magandang hapon po. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, may I invite our esteemed friends and guests and keynote speaker to the stage. We have a living room style furniture laden here before us. So may I call on the two presidents of the institutions, Mr. Ramon Tuazon, Mr. Francis Manglapus, Dr. Braid, Florencia Braid, please come to the stage and occupy the seat. And our chairman, Mr. Mel Velasco Velarde, to please come over here. And at this point, I would like to call on our President Emeritus of the AIJC to be the one to give the introduction of our keynote speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Florencia Rosario Braid.
Good afternoon, and I'd like to thank all of you for your presence this afternoon on behalf of the conveners. I'm really pleased to introduce our keynote speaker. For an organization, a movement that hopes to unify the middle forces, we need someone who represents certain criteria: youth, charisma, passion, commitment, a deep faith in the future, and of course a vision of the possible. A vision of the possible. Mel Velasco Velarde represents all of this. And to show you that we need someone like him, let me share some stories from his early life that would demonstrate the shaping of his mindset. Mel started working at age 8 when he was appointed assistant press photographer for the 1971 to 72 Philippine Constitutional Convention. As a child, his father taught him to take pictures by tinkering with cameras as baby toys. At age 6, he was awarded a plaque of the world's youngest professional photographer by no less than the Supreme Court Chief Justice. At 11, he was National Chess and Games finalist. He also won a national championship in a quiz bee show on national TV, where he won a Toyota Corolla. At age 19, he represented the country as chair of the Philippine delegation to the 1983 International Youth Leaders Conference at the United Nations and led 110 youth leaders from all over the world in pushing for greater youth participation. While studying and working in the U.S., he joined the political exile movement for a free Philippines headed by former Senator Raul Manglapus, and he headed the youth group of the National Union of Centrist Democrats. He led the business development and operations of Sky Cable, which became the largest cable TV company and recognized as one of the 8 best in corporate leadership and entrepreneurship. Then President Fidel Ramos tapped him as his personal technology advisor. In 1999, Mel established his Velarde Incorporated Holdings firm, which he utilized in acquiring Ultimax Broadcasting, which he transformed into broadband internet by operating direct broadcast satellite, the first to establish a two-way satellite system. He participated with U.S. technology firms, including Intel, the manufacturer of computer chips. In 2002, Mel engineered the buyout of Nextel Communication, later named Next Mobile, and transformed the ailing company from negative 11 billion pesos in equity to positive 3 billion. Jose Lechoco, former president of the International Telecommunications Union and Secretary of Communications and Transportation, wrote about him as the man who re-engineered a failure into success. In 2005, he acquired Cash Rounds, which he renamed Information Capital Technology Venture, and later renamed Now Corporation. In 2009, he received the top taxpayer award for Revenue Region 8, which includes the financial capital of Makati, Taguig, and other cities in Metro Manila, having paid the highest amount of tax. At age 24, he worked at KTLA in the U.S. as news director training. From 2003 to 2010, he joined us as UNESCO Commissioner and Chair of the Committee on Science and Technology. In 2014, he acquired at an auction in London the 1734 Murillo Velarde map, which became a most valuable evidence of a historical claim to rights in the West Philippine Sea, and donated to the Philippine government. No, Supreme Court Justice Antonio Carpo had used this to show the evidence of our claim. In late 2015, Mel launched the Now Cable Broadband and NowPlanet, the telecom media and technology products and services listed in the Philippine Stock Exchange with a capitalization of 3.3 billion pesos. Now I'll read to you lengthily what he has done in terms of equipping himself with learning. So we call him probably the poster boy of lifelong learning and continuing education. He completed his liberal arts, Bachelor of Liberal Arts, major interdisciplinary studies with a near-perfect GPA, which earned him the highest honor, summa cum laude, at Boston University. Now we have two summa cum laudes in our movement, Senator Raul Manglapus and Mel. He took courses at UP Ateneo and completed a degree in economics from the University of Asia and the Pacific. He really Well, he continues to learn by taking special courses in Europe and the US, such as the President's Management Program and other technology courses at Harvard University, International Human Rights Law at Oxford University, Digital Cinematography, Film Production, Digital Marketing, Data and Internet Communications, Mobile Technology, Cybersecurity Planning and Art in US and European Schools of Learning, and an Executive Education course at Wharton. Now, are you listening, Department of Information and Technology? Mel is chair of the Asian Institute of Journalism and Communication, as well as chair of the centrist Social Democratic Union. At age 55, this boy wonder, I call him boy wonder, I hope he won't mind, who grew up to be a Renaissance man and an exceptional achiever, continues to inspire many with his passion for learning and the pursuit of causes for the service of country. Recently, another feather was added to his cap when he was nominated and accepted in the Academian Filipino, a group of 100 top intellectuals in the country. This prestigious association brings together the best of Filipino minds, esteemed accomplished representatives of the arts, industry, science, and includes national artists, national scientists, Ramon Magsaysay Foundation awardees, and achievers, in the words of former Justice Conchita Carpio Morales, the convener and president. Ladies and gentlemen, I take pride as a senior citizen in introducing a young man, a most remarkable achiever, and I said earlier, a poster boy of continuing education, and an advocate for a freer, fairer, and more just society. Mel Velasco Velarde.
Thank you very much, Dr. Carangel Rosario Bray. Ladies and gentlemen, Chairman Mel Velasco Velarde.
Thank you very much, Dr. Flor. Palakpakan po natin Dr. Flor Bray. She is the founder of the Asian Institute of Journalism and Communication. She is our source of inspiration, and thank God she's very strong and continues to support our projects at AIJC. My job today is not really to give you a keynote speech. Millennials don't like speeches. They like a conversation. So kindly allow me to converse with you and perhaps provide you a crisp, cohesive, and comprehensive explanation of the what, the who, and the why of today's event. You know, Raul Manglapus is the ideological father of many of the best statesmen and politicians in our country. But he didn't touch only those who are in politics, but also those who are in business. In my business alone, because of Raul, all my employees, we put up a cooperative called KPSC, Kapisanan ng mga professional service providers. From the janitor to the owner, from me to the janitor, we're members of that cooperative, and we own shares of our listed company. So we put 20 million shares there, and there was a time the share price was 20 pesos, and we were only 100 members. Of course, recently it went down to 5 or 4, but it's still worth a lot. And why did I do that? Because I believe that even non-political organization should become vehicle in achieving certain universal ends or goals, which is the equitable distribution of wealth through equitable distribution of opportunities. Nobody gets rich in through salaries, not even through bonus. And we also don't like begging from a patriarch giving us monthly handouts. No. Workers want to earn their own salary, and they should partake from the economic fruits of a company. And it's my goal that even a janitor should become a millionaire in a technology-based industry. So that's my own story, because Raul is like a father. Judge Loredo here from the city of Manila, he is also part of our youth group. We were the teenagers. We were 18, 19. Francis, when we were 18, he was already 30, I think. That's the time you should laugh a bit. But he is 63 now, and I'm 55. And we said, before we die, we promise your father, let's do something. And he said to me, well, you were busy making money. I said, no, I was not busy making money. I was busy with AIJC. And today is the beginning of a long march. So till the last day of our lives, this is what we intend to do, and we don't like a political party. So allow me to explain the what, the who, and the why. These are the before that, Joel, the three organizations on the page 2. Go back, please. You're going ahead of my story. There is a script here. Okay. When Francis told me, Mel, my dad is celebrating 100 years birth anniversary, and I said, we better do something. We've been talking for 3 years. So Raul celebrated his birthday last October 20, correct? Another great man celebrates his birthday today, Acting Chief Justice Antonio Tirol Carpio. So these are the three personalities, three organizations. On your left is a communications educational institution. We award master's degree in communications development. On the right, this is a union, and I will explain who are the targets to be members of that union. And the one in the middle is the creation of Two Parents, which we're also launching today. It's a Center for Leadership, Center for Freedom and Democracy. Next page, please. When Yolanda happened, and I don't need to explain to you how terrible it was. Almost 300 kilometers per hour, people were dying. Even after the typhoon left, people were starving. And I don't want to give you the graphic details because I'm not here to point a finger. But I wanted to point a finger of blame. And every time I do that, the finger goes pointing back at me. So I said, what do professionals, what are they doing when all of these disasters were happening? They were expecting government to solve the problem. But how about those executives who are in Makati and Taguig? They have so much skills and competence in problem solving. They went to business school in Harvard, in Wharton, but they were nowhere in the times of moral crisis, in times of disasters. So I said to my sister, who was in later, a public school teacher, we have the same father. I treat her like a full-fledged sister. Public school teacher in later, her family almost died, and her respiratory health got aggravated, and I told her, let's put up the CSDU, at the time it's Christian, we changed it to Centrist. And eventually 2 months after we put up, she died, put up a CSDU. Then, after that, the AIJC became part of the post-Yolanda project. It's still, whatever the achievements of AIJC in cooperation with UNICEF, Ramon? Was it UNICEF? Yes, and we were doing a package of communication and interventions in support of health, nutrition, education, child protection, water, sanitation, hygiene. Still, those are not enough because certain follow-through projects have to be done. Next. So what is the primary purpose? I said, let's have a primary purpose that is beyond being Christian. So we said we want to evangelize the ideals of centrist social democracy. And before I read to you the exact profile of what a centrist is, we would like to emphasize here that we are adopting humanist philosophies of Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and other beliefs. And we want young people to absorb all of these social teachings. There is a jurist, lady jurist, that was accused to having suffered religious preoccupations. And we said, well, maybe if a leader were to be preoccupied, she or he should be preoccupied with many religions. So who is a centrist? It's a term invented in 1872. Centrism is not moderate, supports strength, tradition, open-mindedness, and policy based on evidence, not ideology. Evidence and reason. Centrism is not about compromise, but rather allows for it as reasonable. There's attribution there. Okay, next. One that holds to well-reasoned views, considerate of short and long-term needs. That's the noun. What's the adjective? Considerate of traditional values and new ideas, favorable, respectful of individual rights and freedoms, favoring reasonable individual liberty and regulation, concerned mainly with broadening a person's general knowledge, experience, as well as scientific, technical, and professional training, well-reasoned, construed or understood, considerate of context and precedents, but not strictly literal and exact. Next. Centrists are independent thinkers. So we may belong to the same union, but you are responsible for your thought and action. They're open-minded. They exercise conviction, willing to fight for reason as opposed to ideology. Ideology limits the capacity of reasoning. Centrist conviction is not limited by ideology. Reasoning is based on pragmatic reality and circumstance. Centrism is not a belief. It is an open book to an unfolding situation. It is considerate of changing circumstances that may require reconsideration based on the intelligence available and reason itself. So, when centrists argue, don't expect theological arguments. Expect reason and context to define relevance of a given point. Centrists are pragmatic and avoid extremes whenever possible. Centrists dislike special interest, influence, and unfair practices. Centrists believe that if we dealt with the facts and concentrated on working together, we could fix a lot of problems. The two polar opposite parties constantly embattled in their own agendas and ideologies. Centrists seek accountability in governance, honor and integrity. Centrists believe that political spin erodes the integrity of the vote and certainly that of the politician. Now, what kind of people are we looking for? And I've been looking for a word in the dictionary. And I finally found it. Bifurcated individuals. Who are the bifurcated individuals? These are not those who are in government, or those who are in NGOs, or those who are paid 24/7 to provide disaster management. Bifurcated individuals, a good example would be, we have many bifurcated youths now, half Filipino, half American, half Filipino, half Australian. You can also call them bifurcated Filipinos. But the profile of members we're looking for in the union are people who have their own profession. They're busy creating something for themselves. They're not 24/7 politicians or strict parliamentarian. These people are doctors, professionals, technology guys, programmers, they author software, they sit in a BPO, they have a day-to-day job, they earn their own money. But beyond what they do, they have a sense of inadequacy because they think they can do more. They can do more. So what is the profile of these bifurcated individuals? Bifurcated, as you know, it goes to divide into branches or parts. If you love Yogi Bear when you were young, Yogi Bear would always say, once you see a fork, take it. That was bifurcated to him. It was his humor. So the members that we're looking for are the ones who can live a dual life. They are private professional and they want to be public leader. I'm sorry, this is not really a place for politicians. But if you're busy doing something else other than politics, then maybe you should join us, and please join us. Individuals who will join this union respects and demands privacy. They want their own private life. Authenticity is their number one trait. Family is priority. They're educated, but conscience and reason. They're educated, maybe religious and spiritual, but conscience and reason keep them sane. Feels inadequate for not doing more for the country. Hates politics, but finds politician necessary, entertaining, some admirable and vital to status quo and reforms. Silently supports candidates of their liking. Feels running for office a major lifestyle change. Detests compromise of principles and change of character for the sake of election. Ready to lead and be led by people like them. So what does this mean? As members of union, you worry about your life, but in times of disaster, in times of moral crisis, remove your private hat and wear a hat of a member of a union to provide immediate and direct support. I'm not saying that join the Red Cross. No, Red Cross is funded to do that job, and they better be good at doing it. And Dick Gordon is so good at doing it. Government, that they're paid for that job. That is not our job. But those who are in the private sector can do more. These guys are trained all over the world. And you give them an environment, a venue, that they could channel their extra energies. I tell you, they can solve so many problems if you only ask them for their white paper, for their participation. So this is what we've been looking for as members of the union. Now let's go back to the world religion. Why do we need to go beyond Christianity? We are after the social teachings of religions, not the theological teachings, not the dogmas, not the edicts, but the social teachings. And why were these religions in the first place created? They express dissatisfaction with the world as it is. They give expression to the value of dignity of human life. They call us to recognize our responsibility to transcend or go beyond our own self-centeredness. These are the reasons why religions were organized or established. Now, this slide is very important for the union, for the centrists, because all of these religions or philosophies share the common goal. And if we Christians are proud with our 10 commandments, Jainism said it in one sentence: do not injure, abuse, oppress, enslave, insult, torment, torture, or kill any creature or living object. I put that in the middle, not because I belong to that group or it is of a higher order than the rest. I put it in order in the middle because just in case you want to be an extremist, a religious terrorist, be a part of Jainism. Because you are extremely a pacifist. A terrorist Jainism will walk so slow in the street to avoid stepping on ants or small animals. They're such pacifists. Hinduism, selfless, devout adherence to duty, dharma, moral action, karma, on behalf of others. Stress the absolute principle of practicing non-violence or non-injury, suicide, toward all living beings in thought, word, and deed. Follows Buddhism, 2,500 years old. Only by empathy and feeling the suffering of others do we become truly and fully human ourselves. Islam, all believers possess an obligation to practice charity. Obligations mean it's a duty toward others and to lift the burdens of the less fortunate. Addresses the importance of racial equality, religious tolerance, mercy, social justice. Of course, Christianity, more than 2,000 years old, emphasized the value of human life, so to break down ethnic, gender, and class division. And Jesus Christ became the top philosophers of all because of the idea of love and forgiveness. And all philosophers before him did not invent that idea and put some teeth into it and actual parables and real-life examples. But there was also a Good Samaritan. But Christians are not alone. Judaism teaches about the shared fatherhood of God to all humankind and value of human life and responsibilities towards others. Brother's keeper. Lately, the Jews have improved their narrative. They are not the chosen people alone. Rabbi Butik said God never played favorites with the Jews. You see the tweaking of narrative because there is a need for world peace. The word chosen, or Gayim Saichaya, I have made you a light to nations, is never a noun. It is a verb, according to Rabbi. It connotes an activity. So chose was a verb. You are chosen by God to spread the light of God and laws of God to all the inhabitants of the earth, that they too are God's children. So, what do we do? In the Raul Manglapus Center for Leadership, Freedom and Democracy, we invite you to attend, in fact, even hold some of these classes. And I want to give you an example of a case study which we are preparing to conduct and facilitate. And this is about PDAF. For 3 Supreme Court decisions resolved that the pork barrel was illegal. And this is the case study that we want to handle first. Just to give you an example, and maybe papers can be distributed to you. What happens when you attend an executive course in the Raul Manglapus Center for Leadership and Democracy? Case method, PDAF. This was a case filed by Greco Bellica, who is an incorporator of the Centrist Social Democratic Union. The lawyer, John Molo, also a member of the CSDU. These people have full-time jobs in their lives, but they decided to create and reform a system and declare PDAF, pork barrel, illegal. They succeeded. As students of our executive education, we will go through their petition and we will codify, replicate how these young people were able to look at the law and fight for it and declare it illegal. The purpose of which is to have more people, more young people, equip them with a skill in changing and effecting reforms. Exactly what Raul Manglapus did when he trained me, Francis, Bobby here, Bo, and many other young people. So come to our message to them. Attend our class and change onerous and iniquitous laws. Together with this, I'm giving you a very interesting reference of how technology was used in analyzing pork barrel. And these were done by young people in in UP. They created a network, a software. They analyze who gets what and how much. They analyze all the NGOs who receive money and where the money went after receiving them. They injected their computer technology in creating these networks. And you will see how they look at a modern day problem and use their modern day skills. This is not just for lawyers. This is not just for politicians. This is for computer programmers, for cybersecurity. Get the real truth, and create something out of it, maybe lessons, and put them in a case study, and they can be replicated. And then when you look at both cases of PDAF and this UP study on the networks using PDAF, if you are in this class, we will also give you the art of the cinema as part of your class, where ethical theories in this movie, Crimes and Punishment, mirror the personalities in the PDAF system. And what's the takeaway? We want our students who will graduate from this center to master the ethical theories in the PDAF case study. And may I read to you what are these ethical theories? And forgive me if this is very academic. We are academic. We are educators. This is the job of the union. We're not here to run for election and get votes. We want to produce the ones who will get votes and get elected. So you have the moral relativism. What does that mean? Moral nihilism means all moral statements are meaningless. Moral subjectivism, the individual is the final arbiter of morality. Cultural moral relativism, the culture is the final arbiter of morality. Then you have moral objectivism, under which consequentialism, moral egoism. An action is right if it maximizes the actor's happiness. Utilitarianism, an action is right if it maximizes overall happiness. Non-consequentialism, under that would be Kant's ethical theory, natural law theory, theistic, non-theistic, and divine command theory. What are we talking here? We want young people, when they run for office, and if they were to master something apart their own natural expertise, it is ethical theories. And how many are now running for election? By January, we will have an event in SMX. We will invite all those who filed a certificate of candidacy. We will have a landing page. They just take a picture of their certificate. They're free to come in. And on that day, we will invite all progressive thinkers who will equip these young people. And who knows, many of them might win. And who knows, maybe they will be like me and Francis and the rest here, who were touched by Raul. And they will do their own changing of laws and their own progressive reforms in their own society. Another case in the center of Raul Manglapus' Center for Leadership and Democracy. Just to give you an example, concretely, why are we here? This is another business case, land reform. You know, Pedro Murillo Velarde was a Jesuit. He defended the Indios, and he wrote the defense, Manifesto in Defense of the Indio, of San Mateo. He was Spanish, because the Spaniards, the religious orders, were stealing all the lands of the Indio. Move forward, Douglas MacArthur. He caused the land reform in Japan, but he didn't cause the land reform here. And he said, and this was shared to me by General Amonte yesterday, MacArthur was asked, why did you not effect land reform? You did well in Japan. Well, I have many friends here who are landed. Here comes Manglapus. He saw the problem. He was young. He had energy. He wanted to change the country. And there, he was the father of land reform. That citation, by the way, Francis Manglapus, make sure that we only see the top portion, because below there it was signed by Ferdinand Marcos. Lastly, this is my last slide. Land was a source of wealth before. As an owner of a telecommunications company, I've been thinking about this, that the ownership of a cell site in a barrio the services could be distributed by the local folks and the local entrepreneurs. Telecommunications is a $20 billion industry. Only 2 families benefit from it. Major. But why can't it be decentralized? That's it in my mind. Why can't it be interconnected, but in each barrio you have IT guys who can put up this small personal refrigerator size of a cell site, which is now the case, no longer a big equipment. I've been doing this. I'm running this as a Now corporation in Metro Manila. So I was thinking, if you see that picture there of a sari-sari store, maybe that sari-sari store could be the telecom partner, and maybe through small entrepreneurs, technology will replace the role of land as the source of wealth. I hope, ladies and gentlemen, I was able to give you a picture of what we intend to do. This is our first day, and we don't want to miss the opportunity of explaining it. And this is a long march, as I said. And Raul did what he knew best, and I think we are in this time in our personal lives that we can dedicate also ourselves to this cause, and perhaps also to the last day of our lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairman Mel Velarde. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, and I invite the team of Sam Velarde and company to take advantage of their photo op in the next activity that we'll have, and also the news agencies with us today, CNN Philippines and One News Agency. May I call on the 2 presidents, President of AIJC, Mr. Ramon R. Tuazon, President of CSDU, Mr. Francis Xavier Manglapus, to occupy the seats here in front for the historic signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between CSDU and AIJC, to be witnessed by President Emeritus of AIJC, Dr. Florangel Rosario Bray, and our Chairman, Mel Velasco Velarde. As announced by Mr. Manglapus this afternoon, the former President of the Republic of the Philippines, Fidel V. Ramos, will not be joining us today due to some health reasons. So we are now witnessing the 2 presidents putting their initials on each page of the Memorandum of Understanding between CSDU and AIJC. As they finish the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding, I invite one and all, if you have questions, to the 2 presidents of the institutions, AIJC and CSDU, and on the keynote presentation, lecture of Chairman Mel Velasco Velarde. I invite anybody. Let's give a hand on the 2 presidents for the Memorandum of Understanding. So if you have questions on any of our presidents, Mr. Tuazon and Mr. Manglapus, especially on the keynote lecture of Chairman Mel Velarde, please feel free to approach Ira here, who has a microphone, if you have any question addressed to any of the gentlemen here on stage. Of course, our esteemed colleagues on the stage are also free to ask our chairman after revealing to us, giving to us some of the exciting news about CSDU and future activities. You are also free to ask Chairman Mel. Anyone? Ira? Do you have any question in the house? We have one question over there, sir. Please identify yourself and address your question to any of the gentlemen.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to our chairman and keynote speaker. Richard Talento po, faculty member, Political Science Department, Adamson University. I have heard your presentation concerning about the centrist Social Democratic Union. You have explained much, very, very clear about the concept of how this organization understands the concept or the term centrism. But pardon me, but I don't get the presentation or the position of the union on the concept of social democracy. Does it have affinity with the social democratic movements or the social democracy European model? And also, this is to the keynote speaker, of course. And also, the social democracy chooses it to have what's this? Centrism relies heavily on evidence, not ideology, because we in our discipline understood social democracy as an ideology. How are we going then to reconcile this one? And probably this is just a problem of semantics. May I be clarified on that, sir?
Thank you, Professor, for your question. Gives us an opportunity. The word social should be taken as it is, and the word democracy be taken as it is. Social, as Francis said, any human activity must have some social purpose or social relevance. And democracy, as you know, since we are a Republican nation, we are committed to democracy. Just on the democracy part and on the republicanism part, being a republic, there's the most important principle, which is the acts of those who govern are subject to the consent of the governed always. So that principle is what makes us democratic compared to the other system. Of course, Europe, they have the SOCDEMs. We're not related to them. They're a political party. But just like religion, we may have some cross-boundary commonalities. Thank you, Professor.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm Virgilio Reyes, former ambassador to Italy and to South Africa. And I thank everybody for all their contributions to this afternoon. I think, this is taking another step in the direction which my former boss, Secretary Manglapus, took in his very distinguished career. Now, I think it's impossible to touch on all the points which were raised by the message of Mr. Velasco Velarde, but I know that he is also, by the way, a composite name like Murillo Velarde. In any case, the definition of the bifurcated individual seems to be premised on a high level of civilization, which I think you must admit our present age does not seem to reflect. In Turkey, a journalist who walked into an embassy seems to have been dismembered. Pipe bombs are being sent to opponents of President Trump in the United States. And Facebook has, disallowed certain sites to continue because of their content, including trolling. And we all know what the effects of social media are here in the political debate in the Philippines. So how would you reconcile, these plans to carry out the new form of the Christian Social Democratic Union in such a world as what we live in? I mean, how do you reconcile seemingly very disparate and dysfunctional worlds?
Thank you, Ambassador Reyes. In the case of Facebook, the trolls, these are the negative aspects of the single connected world. But there are also some highlights that are positive that we must communicate to our new generation. Look at Amazon. When you order a book that you already ordered before, it tells you, Sir Velarde, are you sure you want to order this book again? What is Amazon trying to build? It's the value of trust. And those companies in the digital world, once they are able to establish that they can be trusted, they become big. Once you don't trust Amazon anymore, their business will go belly up. Similar to Facebook. Once our private information is compromised through negligence, maybe it's understandable if it's cyber attack. But if it is the selling of our private information, then Facebook market capitalization will go down. There is dharma there. There is karma there. So the same principles apply. Now, in the case of journalist, of that journalist who was invited and was killed, these are precisely the evils in man that we are trying to confront by training the new generation on what? On human accountability. Islam says charity is an obligation. In our religion, it's an option, but it's not a rule. So it may be, today there may be new problems, but the principles remain the same. So we go back to the bottom line. If the army of good wins the army of evil, then we will prevail. If the army of evil wins, then we all lose. It is an endless, forever intensifying struggle. And this is where we need the learnings of the old, from Raul, to you, his colleague, to us, and to our children. Now, the reason why I like technology, because it reads human behavior. It reads human thinking. And now we have the facility to segmentize our people of how extreme their anger, their hatred, or how extreme the actions they're willing to take. Before, surveys were our only tool. And because of technology, our leaders could be properly warned that there is really no straight answer other than the good must confront the bad. Of course, as people say, well, when we talk with General Monte, these are all the problems. And young people will say, we're coming into this ecosystem precisely because of these problems. So I hope, Ambassador Reyes, my incomplete answer may satisfy you for the moment, because it is a continuing struggle.
Good afternoon. Ed Castro, founding trustee of Global Peace Foundation. Old friend of Francis. And we have been involved in previous projects in the past. And just a practical question. How do you plan to sustainably fund and finance the union?
Good question, Ed. When Dr. Flor Braid founded AIJC, that was the question. And she thought the Institute won't survive for a year. It survived for 5 years, survived for 10 years, 15 years. We think if we are able to serve something good to certain individuals, funding will come in. And from my side, we have committed funding in this center. We have our building, our studios are there. We have all the facilities. The institute is there. We don't have all the money to spend in these new adventures of Francis and Ramon, but I think there will be more people who will participate. Well, of course, the courses have to be paid. There's tuition fee that's affordable for the courses. And Ramon can tell you about our professional development programs. Just to give you an example on how our PDP programs have become successful and self-sustaining. Ramon?
Thank you, Mel. I think what we did was we addressed the need, the market need. Sometimes it takes some time for the market to recognize. But once you have identified and they have recognized, there would always be support coming from institutions that would require or need our services. And it has become self-sustaining, at least for the experience of the Institute. And I think this would be similar experience for the center and for the CSDU. Since there is a need for this, it has come to a point that we will be self-reliant in the near future.
Thank you very much. We have time for 2 more questions. Please, from this table, I see a gentleman raising his hand over there. Then another one at the back.
Good afternoon, Ed Tayaw. I always complain politics in this country is limited only by 2 colors, red and yellow. So I was wondering how you could explain this in terms of probably culture or human behavior, as you've said, Mr. Chair. And also, in relation to this, if there is still a place for real political parties in this day and age and the current political setup.
The Democratic Party and Republican Party in the U.S. are 2, yes, but they came from a consolidation and mergers of different parties. But once they're established, they're very hard to defeat. There was a Green Party one time. Here it is red and yellow at the moment. Later on, let's not call red, because red is more of a dual meaning. So there is the administration and the opposition. There is room for more parties, especially because even if you're a party of 3 and you're in parliament, your 3 votes are needed. And only a parliamentary government could really harness a multi-party system. The party list system, of course, works, but there was a Supreme Court decision that it no longer is restricted to marginalized group. So you could practically have a billionaires club as a party list, no longer marginalized. So I hope when parliament would come in, a system would come in, we would have enough graduates to be part of the red, blue, yellow, green, orange. And we are not politicians. I enjoy my CEO job, but you know, Francis does not have the touch of his father. His father is a lot handsomer and more eloquent, but a while ago I thought he was already his father when I was listening to him. But there are people like us who will support. So we like parties of the millennium, but we'd like them to enter our school. We'd like to lend them our technology, party organization, business management skills, fundraising skills, and hopefully that day will come soon and help us in the union. We have a form online. Please check what role you want in the union. Ambassador Reyes, Secretary, please check. Be an advisor. But there, I want to be your advisor. We're looking for advisors. A patron. or a subject matter expert. Tell us your expertise, and we will design the curriculum. And hopefully our graduates will become the next Raul Manglapuses of our government.
Thank you very much, sir. We have time for one more question, please, from this table.
Good afternoon. Celso Cainglet, student of philosophy and former director of Center for Christian and Muslim Democracy, and an old friend of Francis. I really appreciate that you presented moral relativism and moral objectivism, because I think the problem today is moral relativism. You talk of good and bad, but what are your grounds of saying this is good, this is bad? On the other hand, we have the other extreme of moral objectivism. We saw that in many churches, that became dogmatic. But this is the good, disagree with it, you die. Now my point is, many movements came out like this, but many of them died a natural death. Maybe because sometimes the problem is the lack of a critique mechanism, self-critique mechanism of a movement. I remember I once wrote a paper, Eros and the Revolution, how a revolution would eat itself. We saw that in the French Revolution. Now, because you always talk about the good, but in ethics, we have the problem of what we call the infinite regress. When you say infinite regress, for example, two people are trying to make a point or arguing. Who arbitrates that who is right among the two? Then you take an arbiter, but the arbiter has his or her own biases, so you need another arbiter until you reach the Pope. That's infinite regress. Frankfurt School, for example, in the person of Jürgen Habermas, suggested self-critique to stop that problem of infinite regress, because I suppose this is a moral movement. But the problem with moral movement is it's either it becomes relativist or it becomes dogmatic. Now there's always a danger. So what is your mechanism of self-critique to see to it that you don't become relativist on the one hand, and on the other hand, dogmatic? Thank you.
Thank you also for your question. I use those ethical theories as part of the business case on PDAF and the movie Crimes and Punishment. But just to answer your question, when we like our students to be able to understand these theories and use these theories, grade them, use them, sleep with them, and live with them to determine what is morally permissible. The Protestant group alone, they differ on the use of cell and as a way to cure. So these are just the Protestant group. We are not in the position, and we are not a moral group that will dictate what is morally permissible. What we want is our students to be adept at all these ethical theories, that they may be able to identify, that's consequentialism, that merely maximizes the happiness of the most number of people. But that is against the ontological ethic theory, which is it is a duty independent of the consequence. So we like our students to be able to navigate through these ethical theories, and they will not be left, dumb or easily manipulated by men or women of persuasion, and they will just swallow whatever the evangelist, charismatic, political leader before them. So that's our goal. That's precisely our goal. This kind of conversation is perfect for that course, and we have outlined. We have the speakers for that. Thank you, and please participate in the center.
Thank you very much, Chairman Mel. At this point, may I invite the Chairman, Dr. Braid, President Tuason, and President Manglapus to return to your table so you can also partake of our humble merienda. And please, one and all, enjoy the video that we have here in honor of the late Senator and Foreign Affairs Secretary Raul S. Manglapus.
Manglapus.
20 years ago, we talked to the Filipino people and advanced the thesis that there must be a new Filipino. We advanced the thesis that the Philippines today must now adopt a Christian socialist plan. That the privileges of the old values of the past should be consigned to history, and that we should now start sharing the wealth of our people among the greatest number. At that time, there was a lonely voice in the wilderness, and I must confess, at that time when I was part of a major political party, we actually put through these ideas. Because I believe that when martial law is dismantled in the Philippines, we cannot go back to the past. And if we go back to the past in our country, then all our efforts will have been in vain. We must move forward to a Christian socialism where our people will help the decent break that they've been praying for. And that is the cause for which we have all sacrificed our time and effort. And in fact, I must assume, we have even willing to lay down our lives for a greater cause than all of us.
The oratorical genius of Mr. Raul S. Manglapus is legendary. It is said that when the young Manglapus joined an oratorical contest, President Quezon was bound to listen, and then leave when Mr. Manglapus' term was over. But it is not for his dexterity in language that we are honoring him today. Rather, it is for his use of that gift. In World War II, while he was still a law student, he used this gift to denounce the Japanese invaders in his radio broadcasts. Later, he started an underground patriotic newsletter called The Free Philippines and wrote an article against the Japanese emperor. That last act of defiance led to his capture, torture, and imprisonment, first in Fort Santiago and then in Bilibid. The decades following World War II saw his rise as an educator, a statesman, and a civic-minded citizen. He was named Undersecretary of Foreign Affairs in 1954 and Secretary of Foreign Affairs in 1957, the youngest Filipino to occupy such a post. 4 years later, garnering the most number of votes, he was elected senator. In 1967, he founded a Christian social movement, an organization dedicated to promote social justice, especially in land reform. The declaration of martial law, however, halted Mr. Manglapus' crusades. Mr. Manglapus had no choice but to hide again, this time not in the mountains, but in the United States. Again, with a graceful pen and an even more eloquent tongue, he wrote and spoke to restore freedom in the Philippines. It is not torture, nor exile, nor even death alone that makes one a hero, but a solid commitment to change society.
There is only one valid revolution left in the world, and that revolution is democracy. At tayo mga kababayan, huwag na natin sabihin na tayo'y tagapag-aral lang ng demokrasya. Tayo'y tagapagturo ng demokrasya. We are no longer students, we are teachers of democracy. Kaya kayo mga kabataan, pagpunta ninyo sa presinto sa May 11, bago nyo deposito ang inyong balota, tumayo muna kayo ron. Tumindig kayo at harapin niyo ang buong daigdig at sabihin niyo, ako'y Pilipino. Pagpatayo ko ng isang dakilang republika, I will build a republic second to none, because the Filipino is second to none in the world. I am a Filipino, I am a builder, and I am you. Listen to me, because the future is mine.
Thank you very much. That was a short video of
Please,
and I invite the chairman.
please stand up. Let's just spend a minute. I want to propose a toast for our celebrant. Always a celebrant to us. 100 years old. Please, may I have a glass? May I call the members of the family, the Manglapus family, the grandchildren. This is your grandfather's great day. Could you introduce them, Francis?
This is my niece, Marika Manglapus Ledesma, and my nephew, Raul Manglapus III, joining us today. And we'd like to thank you very much for all being with us here this afternoon.
I propose a toast to honor a man whose vision was ahead of his time, a man whose ideals remain relevant to us Filipinos today, a man who continues to be our inspiration. And may we keep that inspiration alive and do more for this country as much as he did. Happy birthday, Raul.
Cheers.
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 Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, one and all. And before we part ways, I would like to mention that we have an official press release available from the AIJC and the Secretariat organizing this event. And as a fitting end to our launch of the Raul S. Manglapus Center for Freedom and Democracy, I would like to borrow an old Latin maxim, Amat Victoria Curam, which in English translates to victory loves preparation. Just as our chairman said, and dedicated to the honor of the late statesman and to the family, we raise our glasses and cheer the virtues of the statesman and gentleman. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no love that can prolong, disguise, or hide where love really exists, or simulate it where it does not. To one and all, thank you very much for taking part in our launching of the Raul S. Manglapus Center for Freedom and Democracy. Mabuhay kayong lahat.
Dito may gave this to me. I don't drink it.
that we need to do. You know, we must have national weight. Let's do before journalists.
I'm glad to see what are you writing now? What biography? Whose biography?
I'm a specialist.
I know.
I don't want to write my biography.
You will take in all your
the four journalists.
surveys, anything that
The four journalists.
I will just put on my
Good to see you.